the day after the book was announced, there was a guy in a Facebook group, a Power Rangers comics Facebook group that I'm a part of because I was a fan before all this, still am. But he was in there. I had posted the announcement because I was excited. I know a lot of those guys. I was trying to share it with my friends. And a guy was in the comments saying the story was really good, that he got to read it early. And I was like, oh yeah. And then he was like, yeah, read it if you want to know more. Go buy it. I was like, dude, I wrote it.
This is a very interesting introduction to the video. My name is Ranger Liz, and I am talking with Mr. Frank Vogel. Man, I'm gonna have to edit that out. I was nearly said Vogel.
It's not a bad last name.
It's
It's Gogol with a
Gogol.
long O short O. But I've been called worse, so you should
That's
leave it in.
I. Well, I feel bad. There's a Vogel heating and air conditioning that's like really big and it's really close to us. And the first time I saw your name, I'm like, oh, I wonder if he's related. And then like it took a few days, and I went, that's not his last name. That's very wrong. And I told
It's fine.
myself I was gonna.
As a kid, I was very cross-eyed. I got LASIK when I was 8, 1992, no, 96 maybe, whenever I was 8. But being cross-eyed and having a last name that looks suspiciously like the word goggles, it wasn't a good childhood for until I got that surgery. So whatever you want, you can call me whatever you want. At this point, I'm just so numb to it. Children are terrible.
Oh my god, children are the worst. Why did I have one?
Oh,
Uh
because they're a gift, a
yes,
very expensive gift that you pay for.
they are. They are. So Frank Gogol, you are writing a brand new comic book for Power Rangers, Power Rangers Unlimited, Edge of Darkness. And you are giving us a character that it's in and out like a phantom, something like that. The Phantom Ranger, much speculated, so much shadow surrounding him. Did you like the Phantom Ranger growing up? You said you were a Power Ranger fan before. Is it like you wanted to make a Phantom Ranger story, or it was like we want to do a Phantom Ranger story and you just said, "Gimme"?
Uh, more the latter, probably. So the longer version of this answer is I started writing comics 5 years ago. Like 5 years ago, almost to the day, I wrote my first comic script. After
Congrats.
after wanting to do it forever, and spending a lot of money at college to try and learn how. But when I started with a book called Grief, and then I did a book called Dead End Kids, and a book called No Heroine. And I built up like a nice little indie following over the last 5 years. And during those 5 years, I made it a point to connect with editors who I admire. One of those editors being Daphne Plevin, who has been the editor on Power Rangers for the duration of the book, for the last 5 years. It's kind of weird. The timelines are so similar. I think Power Rangers came out like just February of that year, maybe, or maybe even in April. But so like I made it a point to reach out. I cold emailed Daphne a few years ago. Um, the email went silent, like no radio silence, and like that's just how it is. Like editors are really busy. They don't have a lot of time in their day, and to be answering emails from somebody they don't know, who they don't know anything about, like I get it. So I do a lot of conventions too. So whenever I would be at New York or San Diego, places where Daphne would go, or Gwen Waller, who is the assistant editor on the book, I'd make it a point to swing by the booth and just touch base, introduce myself, say
Yeah.
hello. And that's kind of like the grind, right? You do that with the editors you want to work with, the editors on the properties you are interested in working on.
Mhm.
And you kind of hope for the best. That's all you can do, right? The shitty thing about non-creator owned comics is that somebody else gets to approve it, not you. I can make any book I want for me, but I can't put myself on a Power Rangers book or a Spider-Man book. But I did everything I could.
Yeah,
And then
they
I
can't hire you if they don't know you.
well, that's the thing. So it's kind of like two prongs, right? You got to make sure they know who you are, but then you have to be also putting out consistent work for them to know what you can do for them, right? Like it's
Mm.
it's it's like a job, long job interview. So like that's kind of like what I was focusing on the last few years, is putting out good work, touching base with Daphne and Gwen and other editors who I was interested in talking with. Mostly for properties I really care about, because that's what I want to do. I want to be a little bit selective. And then out of nowhere in November, I got an email from Daphne saying, "Hey, we're doing a Phantom Ranger book. Are you interested?" So like it was unexpected, but like made sense, right? And it's cool because when you do your first IP work, like intellectual property comic, sometimes, a lot of times, you're usually in competition with other people. It's called a bake off. So it'll be like 3 or 5 or 10 other people pitching for this book, and they'll go with whoever they think can make the best book. So it was cool that they
Wow.
came to me and asked me straight up, "Do you want to do this book?" Like that's not what I expected, and I'm super grateful because it just took so much of the pressure off.
Yeah. Alright. Uh, so I didn't know this about comics. Comics are still one of those, like, I read them, but I don't really know a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So they're like, "Hey, we want to make a Phantom Ranger book. Show me what you got." Yeah, or I mean, did they at least give you like some certain parameters of it? Like it has to work with, like in the preview of it, it says an Imperial attack. This stuff, we talked a little bit before I hit record, months and months and months down the pipeline. Like, what do you get to learn so early? Because if you're gonna write a book, about all of this that's happening right now, like how long ago were you doing this?
Well, as far back as November, as far as I know, I may have blacked out and been writing Power Rangers for years, for all I know. But yeah, so since November, I immediately, one of the first things they gave me after we connected and I said I wanted to do it, and they were happy to have me, is they gave me a Google Drive folder with all the comics, like all the stuff that had been published up to that point, as well as scripts for everything that was currently written, plot outlines for what Ryan's doing for most of the next year, and they at that point they had the script for the Astronomer one shot, so I got to read that back in November too. Um,
Nice. That just
yeah,
came out like
yeah. So
today.
it's a weird thing. Like I picked it up today for my shop because I had pre-ordered it back when it was announced in December. And it's so weird to read the final thing because I've seen it at every stage of production. I saw it at the
Oh,
script stage. I saw it when Simone had turned in the pencils and the inks, and when Igor turned in the colors. And I hadn't actually read a lettered version of it until maybe 2 weeks ago. And now, like, I'm able to hold it in my hand, which it's crazy because like it's like a different book. And seeing like what was in the script originally, what made it to the final page. I can't say like what the differences are or why, but
yeah, yeah.
like some things did change along the way, and that's just kind of another part of how comics work. So it's been cool in terms of what they kind of trying to think. Like Daphne emailed me and said, "Hey, we're doing a Phantom Ranger comic. Are you interested?" And I jumped up and down like a little kid and screamed and ran and told my wife, and then
Oh, just
very
yeah.
quietly and professionally responded to the email. Um, oh yeah, that'd be great. When do you want to chat? Yeah, it was not that common in real life. And then we had a call. I think that first call, Daphne calls them jams, uh, was about 3 hours. Like, and it was
Oh,
way longer than I thought it was going to be. I thought like this is somebody who's so busy. This is going to be like a 30-minute call, and like I'm going to have to
mhm.
like figure it out. And then we talked for a long time. Maybe it wasn't quite 3 hours, but it was definitely a couple hours. And we kind of just we talked shop. Like honestly, like the creation of the story was super organic. I had kind of brought a couple ideas to the table, and I wasn't married to a particular one, but kind of sort of when I get hired to do a job, it's I'm hired to sort of execute, right? Like they want
Uh-huh.
something to happen or they want a certain product, and they're hiring me to create it. Kind of like when you hire somebody to come paint your house, right?
Yeah.
They've got a skill and you're hiring them to do that. And that's what they were doing with me. So like at the end of the day, like I didn't go in there with an agenda that I wanted to do for a property. I don't know. And I just kind of let it be open, and so did they. And I can't really say a lot about the story, but the way we came to the story, if I'm remembering correctly, is we kind of thought about Phantom Ranger and all of his appearances in the 10 episodes across Turbo and in space, and which I had just recently rewatched anyway, which is kind of crazy. Um, and like kind of boiled the character down to like the core elements, like what was his function in the Power Rangers universe and everything
Mm.
we've ever seen him before. What are sort of the characteristics of him? You know, the ruby, the invisibility, the secret identity that nobody knows. He's from Eltar or lived on Eltar. You know, some of the stuff's not super clear, and we were able to play with some of it. And then we kind of talked about what Ryan was doing and how we could play off anything with to do with that, but still tell our own story that kind of stood on
Yeah.
its own. And we arrived at this story. And I wish I could say more, because how we got to the story we got to is one of my favorite parts of how this book came to be. But it would spoil everything to tell you.
Well, maybe we need to talk again, in 3 months after the book comes out, and then we can have a full, proper discussion on it.
I will give you an exclusive right now that the day after the book comes out, we can talk spoilers.
That would be awesome. I told you, yeah, you were my first ever interview. So I hope this is setting up a long series of things to come, perhaps.
I hope so. I think that, first of all, I told you when we weren't recording that I'm a fan of the channel to begin with, but
Oh, thank you.
as a fan, I love seeing people talk with people like Jason David Frank and Austin St. John's. Like, just I like seeing like the behind the scenes stuff. I like knowing more about it. I like hearing the stories. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people who are just like me. So if you can make that happen, I think that would be incredible. Let me
That
know how I can help.
well, you can be my big interview after it drops, and we're gonna cover it all.
Let's do it. Let's just make this a weekly thing. We'll vent. It'll be great.
Just comic. You're just gonna take over the comic news segment on the Ranger Week in Review. I'm gonna toss it
Excellent.
over to Frank with our comic news for the week.
And hopefully I'll be saying a lot of my name when we talk about those books.
That's isn't that like, I don't want to be too full of myself, but I really hope I'm saying my own name a lot because
It,
it's
it, it's
Power Rangers. You're a
it's
fan
weird.
of Power Rangers.
It's super weird because like on some level in the back of my mind, like I know Ryan a little bit. We're buddies. I wouldn't say we're friends. Like we don't hang out, but like we talked a bunch before the job, and he's been super supportive and helping me figure things out while I've been on the job. But now, like the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm coming for your job, bro. I'm coming for it. I think
Yeah.
that's the dream. Obviously, I don't want to take
What?
Ryan's job away from him, but if it were to open up, it would absolutely be a dream
It
come true
would.
to step into those gigantic shoes he and Kyle have left behind in Marguerite.
I mean, just 2 books. 2 books.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I did. Oh, I have a little feedback somewhere. I'm not sure how much it's. Nope, and now it's gone. So I did gather some questions, right? As much as this is just going to be a conversation for the most part, I have a fun few questions, right?
Okay.
One, you are now forever associated with Power Rangers. Like, they could put your name in Power Rangers and it's boom, it is a direct association. How
True.
does has that sank in yet to you?
Yeah. I am a like to a fault a practical person. So like it's very rare for me to kind of like fanboy or fangirl about things or to like be overly emotional about anything. I definitely like when I got the job had a moment that it was uncomfortable, like how vulnerable I was being. But
Oh,
it's huge. It's such like I feel like I got to jump a whole bunch of rungs on the comics career ladder, and I got to do it on one of my two favorite properties, if not my favorite property. It's between Power Rangers and Buffy. So you know where I'm trying to go next then. But yeah, no,
it's all in Boom. So this is why you're like, I just gotta get to Boom Studios and
yeah,
open the door.
right. And then I can do everything. They've got all the good stuff. But yeah, it's it's a very cool feeling. Like it's definitely a feather in my cap to be like, yeah, I wrote Power Rangers. And that's huge for me. I think that would be a huge thing for anyone who grew up in the 90s. I was almost 6 years old when the show premiered. I remember watching the premiere in August of 1993. Like
Were
I've
you were
been
you
with
born
the
in 86?
87.
87? I was late 86.
Okay, yeah. So I was October 87. So maybe I wasn't. Yeah, I was 5, I think. But I've been with this franchise since day one, and like it feels like so wild to me, like absolutely wild. But at the same time, like I keep having these moments. You know the Baby Yoda meme, where it's like it's Baby Yoda, and he's like, "I am Star Wars now." Yeah, that's me. I'm like, I am Power Rangers now.
Like I've I have
Completely.
I've embodied this. Like it is me. It has come full circle a little
So
bit cuz
I've worked my whole life to get this job. Like I didn't know that this was the job I was going to get, but I went to school for writing. I've always loved comics. Like this, like if things could have gotten to a certain place, this is the place that I wanted them to go, even if I didn't know it. And I'm like trying to jump in with both feet.
that's that's fantastic. So we have Phantom Ranger, just this huge question mark. There are fans that have decades of fan fiction thoughts, whatever. Uh did, any pressure, no pressure, like you just going in with your story, and how do you even go into a character that has so little known about them and yet it's so speculative?
That was probably the biggest hurdle. Like the first thing I think I told Daphne, and like this is almost probably a direct quote. I was like, this book is a suicide mission for whoever is going to write it. So yes, I'll do it, but I want you to know, full steam ahead. Like this is a suicide mission. This is Game of Thrones. This is the Star Wars J.J. Abrams trilogy. Like the expectations and the fan theories are just they're just too much. Like there's no way you're ever going to be able to make anyone else happy. Like there's going to be, don't take anything I'm about to say as confirmation or denial of anything, but there's always going to be the group of people who want it to be Billy and they're going to die on that hill. There's some strange small group of people who want it to be Justin's dad for some reason. Okay. There's going to be those people who want it to be the embodiment of all Rangers ever, all fallen Rangers ever, which is a really cool theory. But like there's no one story you can tell that hits all three of those. And then there's everybody else who just wants it to be something fresh, and there's no way to tell which group has the most people,
Yeah.
or what the path of least resistance is there. And weirdly though, like that pressure was kind of freeing. I was like, for me, because I knew going in there was not going to be like a one size fits all answer for this question that made everyone happy.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have to care. I didn't have to care. Like I just got to go and tell the best story I thought I could. Whether people like it or not, that's another thing. Whether it ends up being good is another thing. But I didn't feel like I needed to do any one of those things because, like I said, it's a suicide mission. I did not want to be the Game of Thrones creators, so I decided I wasn't going to be. That all said, I think that what we came up with is awesome. Like it sets the Phantom Ranger up in a way that there are years and years and years of story potential for the character. Like it opens him up, introduces him in a badass way, tells like a really nice one and done story that also ties adjacently into what Ryan's doing in Power Rangers and Mighty Morphin. So like it ticked a lot of the boxes that were really important. Like for everyone who read the Astronomer one shot, like I saw some of the chatter online today. Like a lot of people were really happy with all the connective tissue, the kind of like little Easter eggs and kind of little explanations for things that they didn't even know they had questions about, like where did Divatox come from? And the same thing with issue 5 of Power Rangers on Onyx. It's kind of like all these little cameos and seeing kind of the wider Power Rangers universe. Anyone who enjoyed Power Rangers 5 enjoys Power Rangers 6 when it comes out next month, enjoyed the Astronomer one shot. It's more of that. Like rest assured that like it's that tone, it's that level of love. I mean, I don't want to brag, but I think I'm probably the person who's writing Power Rangers who loves Power Rangers the most ever.
Have
And
if no one
no one.
noticed behind him the impressive amount of lightning collection figures.
Yeah, and then to my I'm flipped to the
I
behind my head. There's the Zero Megazord, and then above it on the little shelves is Sentai number 2, which is the first comic book appearance of the Power Rangers. Like, I mean, I've got over here to my side the Renegade board game, Heroes of the Grid. I play Battle for the Grid on my Switch all the time. Like, I'm a diehard. So like at the very least,
But have you
if the
seen
book
every
sucks,
episode of the season? Have you seen every episode of Power Rangers?
well, look, let me preface this by saying that if I didn't, I don't think it would make me not a fan. But the truth is, I've seen every episode at least twice.
Wow. Okay, that's
Yeah,
impressive though. I've not seen every episode. There's still some of them. I'm like, look, man, I know this is filler. Like, I gotta finish this. That's it.
there are
That is
some seasons that aren't great either. Like, I mean, I don't want to name names because I'll never shit on somebody else's work. But like, there are seasons that like I don't love.
yeah.
There are a couple seasons in particular that I probably won't watch ever again at this point. But there are
I
so many that I
understand.
do love. So many that I do love. And I part of me hopes that I get pinned someday with writing a book about one of the teams that I don't love. So I have to find a reason to love them. I love a good challenge.
Absolutely. You had mentioned earlier, so fan theories of Phantom Ranger. I have seen, excuse me, we have Billy, obviously, amalgam, blah, blah, of all Rangers. Y'all know what I'm saying. Justin's dad. We've gone through all of those. Alpha 5. I mean, Robo powering up. Have you been watching Zenkaiser? I mean, robots changing into other robots.
Yeah, I haven't watched any of the new series yet. I try to watch things when they're done so I can kind of get through them. I have
Understandable.
watched I have watched probably a third to 40% of the American shows in the original Japanese. I'm currently working my way through Sour Ranger again as like cardio filler, which it's hard. It's it's not a great show. Like it's dated and it's for a much younger audience than I think Power Rangers
Yeah.
was, so that makes it a little hard.
Let's see. Phantom Ranger, also Son of Zordon. Ooh,
That's a good one.
that's a good
I
one.
could start making up fan theories for you if you want.
Oh,
Like
we
I have
totally
a whole
could.
bunch.
Here's another one. Maybe 17 garden gnomes that's actually just in a suit.
I will go on record right now and saying that's probably the closest to what the true answer is. No, I'm kidding.
Sweet.
I'm kidding.
Exclusive.
Just for clarity, it is not 17 garden gnomes in a suit. It is 18 garden gnomes in a suit.
Ooh, mark that down. Right, 18.
Yeah, and if you reverse engineer the number 18 to like source code and binary, you can figure out who the identity is. So anyone who likes a good challenge, a good mystery, take these clues and get your whiteboard out and hit me up on June 30th, and we'll see what you got.
The keywords are 18 garden gnomes in a suit. Uh, we'll think of some other keywords. We'll get it figured out. Uh, just this is just about you, but this was one. What is do you have any favorite like fan theories, not about like Phantom Ranger, nothing that you are directly in contact with, just in Power Rangers in general? Like Gosei was Zordon's illegitimate son, anything crazy, like what's a favorite weird theory?
It's not so much a weird theory and
Okay.
more of like a wish list item. Like I'm forever sad that we never got Hexagon.
Yeah.
Where I thought it was such a cool idea. And like looking at the logistics of making a show like that happen, like I understand why Ninja Storm ended up being what it was instead of Hexagon, but like it's just such a cool thing. And it just to me it seems like the perfect thing for a comic because now like we don't have budgets and casts don't cost anything. That's not me saying that I would want to do that comic, but I would want to read that comic for sure.
That's very very true. But now, but we also have, you could take that. Hasbro has said Power Rangers and animation. Like, we know we're getting something animated for Power Rangers. I just, all the comics are right there, right? You just want to hand it to them and go, we're waiting.
Yeah, no, I listen, I have a lot of theories about how that'll play out. I don't have any kind of insider information. I really don't know anything outside of the comics, like, more than anyone else. But if I had to guess, we'll get an animated thing. Based on what Hasbro has done with like other properties like Transformers, might be Netflix. That makes a lot of sense to me. If not Netflix, then Nickelodeon, right? Those are the two obvious ones. I would venture to say that the comics would be a pretty big influence on them, but maybe toned down a little bit. The comics have dealt with things like death, and the violence is it's a little more than kid friendly. I think something in the tone of She-Ra is probably pretty likely, which was great. I thought that was a great show. So I would kill for that. I don't even care if it's animated like that. I'll watch anything. It doesn't matter to me.
It's Power Rangers. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, let's just be honest with each other. It's Power Rangers. We're gonna watch it.
Yeah, and it's going to open the door for like an entire new generation.
Right? Because there's also different ways you can go. And I mean, if you think about Power Rangers and animation, they could go like Marvel Heroes, where it's Spider-Man, but like almost Funko chibi style, and like they could do that with Rangers being like super young, or they could definitely do more of like, I don't want to say like an anime style, but they could do something different, almost to like an older audience. And it just makes me excited when they say Power Rangers animation, because you go, what? Where? It's awesome. But hey, Phantom Ranger's right there. So
yeah, listen, wait until you guys see what we're doing with them, and then we can talk about what the possibilities are for animation, because he's primed for animation, and I can't wait to get that credit. I didn't invent Phantom Ranger, so they probably won't credit me, but that's all right. I can dream.
you can. Hey, we will know. We will know.
Right.
Ranger Nation will know.
That's good enough.
Quick, fun question. Favorite collectible? Let's say in this room you were in right now. Tornado. Wait, you probably don't have tornadoes. I live in where we have tornadoes. Big storm.
We have
earthquake, whatever. You could grab one item out of that room you were in right now. What would you grab to take with you?
Like Power Rangers, or just from this room?
No, just in general. Because there is just beautiful art I'm looking at on the wall.
Oh,
You've got graded comics. I mean, you got some stuff in there.
Can I give you like a top 2 or 3?
That's fair. That's fair.
I'll probably die in the wreckage trying to choose. So this will be the honest answer
for your life.
So over my shoulder there are some graded comics. I have over the years built up I don't collect a lot of comics anymore. I sold most of my collection to fund my first book, Grief. But I have built up some ones that I would care to own. And over my shoulder behind me, I guess everything's flipped. So the second one from the end is Fantastic Four #1, signed by Stan Lee. That is obviously irreplaceable. So that would be up there.
Yep.
Let me adjust my camera a little bit. So up on the wall, there's some stuff hanging. The two middle things are the original cover art for my first miniseries, Dead End Kids, and the second one is is the original art by Peach Momoko, who's doing the Ranger splash helmety variants for the current series. She got real famous last year because she's incredible. But right before she got real famous, she did a variant for my second book, No Heroine, and that's the cover for that. So like any of those three would be, they're my children, right? Like I couldn't not. And then Sentai #2 is up there. So it's just, I don't know. That's my trophy case right there. There's a closet behind me with all my other stuff. So I would make the fire or whatever. Like I'd tell it, hold on, let me go to U-Haul. Let's talk about this.
But I would say, if you had 30 seconds, you could get a lot of those comics and stuff.
Yeah, I got big long arms.
If you're I just got like the Unicron or something in from Transformers, then it'd be like, okay, dude, you got one item. But if they're
I'm gonna ride that out of here.
You may as well just throw it at the fire. It might slow it down. Uh,
It's probably what caused the fire.
oh my god, those things are huge. So the book is 3 months away. It doesn't come out till June 30th. Are you? I know we kind of talked about this a little before hit record, but are you still writing it? Are you? Is it just tweaking it right now? Where are we at this far out?
So like just like a overview of the comics process for anyone who's not like super intimately aware of it is comics are written first. They're kind of done like a movie script, kind of like a screenplay.
Mhm.
I've got my own template for it. It doesn't look like a screenplay. But once the first draft is written, in my case, we sent it back to Daphne. She ruminated on it for a few days and sent back some notes. I did a second pass based on her notes. There weren't a lot. There was one big note that kind of changed the story. It's not that anything was wrong, but we found another way to look at it, and it really kind of it was a good note. It was a really good story note, and it was worth the time it took to restructure and rewrite half the script. So I got the job in November. I probably started writing it right after Thanksgiving, so like the last week of November, first week of December. The final version of the script was in before Christmas. I write really fast compared to a lot of writers I know. That's just I don't know. I just like to get things done. So it's just so that was pretty fast. I think other writers might have taken a little longer. They might have taken their time. I'm not trying to shit on other writers, so don't take it that way.
Yeah, we all have our
Once
own
a script,
processes.
yeah, once a script is done, it is sent to the artist, in this case, Simone Rexoni, who did Heir to Darkness and Drac New Dawn. He drew this. Simone works traditional and then inks digitally. So he drew on paper, scanned it in, and then in Photoshop or whatever program he uses, inked it digitally over his own line work. At various points throughout, I saw the pencils and gave any notes I had in case there was like a miscommunication. Simone is a native Italian speaker, so English is not his first language. So it's kind of like a buffer layer of reviews. So that way we can just make sure that the story is
Yeah.
being told how I envisioned it. Not to make it sound like I'm in so much control, but so we did that for pencils, and then we're doing it for inks currently. Inks are just about done, 3 months out. And now Igor Monty is working on colors. He did the colors for Heir to Darkness. I think he's also the colorist on Dragon Girl Red, if I'm not mistaken, which is on Kickstarter right now, from the Radiant Black universe, which is incredible. Script, pencils, inks, colors, and then depending on how you work, letters can start anytime from inks done to colors done. So far, I haven't seen the letters. Letters are pretty fast. It's kind of not the easiest part of making a comic, but it is the quickest. Right now, inks are essentially done. Colors are about 25% done, and we're about 3 months away. It'll go to print probably about a month to 3 weeks before it comes out.
Really?
So we're looking at about 2 more months production time.
Is there
So
any
I would say, good.
last like tweaks or anything? Like, is this point like the script is completely set, or is there still, because like the letters aren't done, is there still any like, I don't know, in case you wake up and have this crazy vision, like, is there any room still to change anything?
So there was around the time most of the pencils were done and about half of the inks were done. I did sort of lettering pass on the script. So I went through and updated the script. Like I was able to cut some dialogue because the art did all the heavy lifting with the storytelling. I'm a big proponent of removing words from the page so it doesn't cover the art. I usually take off about 20% of what I wrote. I don't really have any kind of concerns about like writer erasure or anything stupid like that. Like I'd much rather put fewer words on the page and let the art kind of do all the work.
Yeah.
So I went through and I did a cleanup pass, grammar, spelling, punctuations, because like I'm not the best proofreader. That's okay. Like that's what editors are for. But like, whatever I can do along the way.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing I did was Simone, when he was drawing it, sometimes saw a better version of what I had. Like, so if I had a 6 panel scripted page and he thought, hey, we can do this as 8 panels and here's what we can add. I was super cool with that, and I was all about him doing that. But I went through the script and revised those pages so that way the script, all the dialogue was on the, panel
Mhm.
7 is now there. So the panel moved the script or whatever, moved the dialogue. Um, so that happened. I think I did that about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I'd say we were like 50% of the way when I did that. We'll do a pass, I think, probably when letters are like in the proof stage. So after Ed Dukeshire goes in and he puts the letters down, we'll do one more pass for spelling and grammar to make sure all the balloons are on the right panels, pointing to the right characters.
Yeah.
See if anything needs to be tweaked. Generally, at the lettering stage, you don't rewrite anything like wholesale, like in big chunks. Like
Yeah.
it's just shitty thing to do the letter after I've done all that work.
That's
Um,
it's true.
so sometimes like I gotta imagine like at Marvel or DC when they're doing a big event book and a plot point changes, stuff like that does happen and it's unfortunate, but like it's kind of a risk of a big tapestry story like that. But on a one shot, like there's not we're not really impacted by anything happening anywhere else. Actually, the story is designed so that way almost 100% of the pages can stand alone from anything else, and that like this wouldn't ever be a problem anyway. So yeah,
Wow.
but that's like the long and short of it: script, pencils, inks, colors, letters, and then various proofing along the way.
That's There's a lot of layers that go to enjoying a comic book. And we're not even talking
It's
about printing and like
Yeah,
transportation and comic book.
I
There's a
it's
lot.
so wild to me like how much work goes into something that you read for like 10 minutes.
Right? And then you nicely put it back and then you put it in your shelf and
Yeah. And then you buy the trade and you don't even touch that one ever again.
but there's just something about, I mean, just holding, just the smell. I mean, what would it be like? The smell of walking into a comic book store is just like you feel it, right? At least in my local comic book store. I mean, it's just you walk in and there's just something about it, and you get that feeling when you hold the comic. That's why I always you buy it in print. You love your comics, and then you put them
I
away.
I'm a fan of the theory that most people don't buy comics only to collect them. This isn't true of all comic shops, but I think my favorite ones are the ones that kind of feel like the cliche old school barbershop feel, like where everybody knows everybody and like people are kind of just hanging out and talking shop while they get their haircut and like
Mm-hmm.
everybody like I don't like there's that movie Barbershop. And I forget who was in it. But they did a few barbershops and like yeah, it's just you got like the older guys like playing chess and hanging out and they're talking, and that to me is like my favorite kind of comic shop. When I lived in New Jersey before I moved out to California, I had a really great comic shop, and at 11 o'clock on Wednesday when they opened, there was 5 or 6 or 10 guys outside, guys and gals, I should say. Um, and we would all hang out for an hour and a half afterwards and talk about the books and
Mm-hmm.
fan theories and geek out over stuff. And I think that is just as important as getting the comics and collecting them. Like, so what you're saying, like, I get it. Like the going to the comic shop is an experience. It's sort of that third place, right? Everyone has home, everyone has work, and then they have that place they hang out to chill and relax. And for some people, that's on the couch on Sunday watching football. So for some people, it's going
Mm-hmm.
down to the bar. For whatever reason, you go to the bar, or for us, it's going to the comic shop.
It's just such a nice feeling too. Like I walk in, it's like, "Hey, Liz," you're just, oh, it's like the closest I get to Cheers. Honestly, is
Yeah,
when I go like my haircut and I go to the comic book store. That's I have a very exciting. I promise, I have a very exciting life. But
Nobody has an exciting life right now.
right,
Nobody.
right. We're already at about 40 minutes already, and I feel like we've barely even touched the surface of just Power Ranger, like fanboying, fangirling all over. But I had one question, and this is my own personal question. Phantom Ranger, he's got his red power ruby, right? It's his thing. It's got his power in it. He has to have it to live. Do you think he's named it?
I can confirm whether he has or has not, or I should say, rather, they have or they have not, because we don't know if Phantom Ranger's the guy.
That's sure. It could be 18 garden gnomes in a suit.
Yeah, or a gal, or somebody who is neither. And yeah, I am saying that to be coy about the identity, but also because we should respect people and who they are.
That's true.
I can't say whether Phantom Ranger has named the ruby. I can say if they have, I'm the only person who knows officially, and I haven't told Daphne, and it's headcanon right now. But if you could name it, what would you name it? Because I don't have a name for it, and I want one now.
Frank. I'd name it Frank.
You name it Frank.
I would name it
Is
Frank.
it because Phantom Ranger's just so to the point? Like he just says what he means. It's just very direct.
A little
Frank.
bit. But I think you deserve that now. You got to get your name associated even more with Phantom Ranger. So even if they're like, oh, okay, comic schmamics, you're like, no, no, no. But his gem, his ruby, I name it Frank.
I think we should call it Blasty McBlastface, personally.
Oh, that is better.
That's just me.
Ruby McRubyface.
Oh wow, yeah. That all of these are possibilities. I think this is the more important question. Who cares who the Phantom Ranger is? What is the Phantom Ranger's Ruby's name?
Ruby McRubyface.
I want fan theories about this. If I make one contribution to Power Rangers, I want to start a problem with people arguing over the Ruby's name.
Let's do it, man. Justice for the Ruby win. Hashtag Ruby name win. That's how we're gonna get. We have 3 months to build this up on social media before this book launches, dude. We have almost.
This actually works.
3 months to the day, right?
3 months to the day, exactly.
Pretty much.
Well, there are 31 days this month. I think.
Yeah, it's wibbly wobbly. There's a day or two in there, but
there are between 88 and 91 days until it comes out. But this is actually a good strategy. Let's take the emphasis off of who the Phantom Ranger is, so that way I can't disappoint as many people as let's get some Ruby stands up in there. Like we need those people.
Do you like we'll come up with 64 names like March Madness? We'll just slowly. This is the content Ranger Nation needs right now. April.
This is the kind of thing that I'm about to go graphic design.
Let me know. Send me a thing. Send me a DM. I'm full of insane ideas. You understand this? Like, let's go.
Yeah, so I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
All right. Man, I don't want to keep it much longer, but June 30th, 3 months from now, what should fans do if they're like, I would like to get this book?
They should pre-order it. If I could get up on my little soapbox real quick.
This is, you know what?
So, all right. So here's how I just explained how comics get made. Let me tell you how comics gets like made the second half. So when a comic book is solicited in Diamond, which is the distributor that does most of comics for now, it'll go into the catalog, it'll go up on the website, it'll be available for pre-order, and it's available for about 8 or 9 weeks, depending on the window, right? So Phantom Ranger Edge of Darkness is up for pre-order starting, I think, tomorrow officially, and will be available through June 7th. So that's about 9 weeks, right? And then June 7th is what we call final order cutoff. That is when Diamond stops taking pre-orders, and then with the pre-order numbers that we got, whether it's 1,000 or 10,000 copies or 50,000 copies, whatever it ends up being, Boom will take those numbers and they'll set a print run. I don't know how Boom does their print runs, so I don't take this as gospel. But in my experience working with other publishers, it's usually about 10% over what the order numbers are. So if it's 50,000 copies, they'll order 55,000 copies, and that's what. Those additional 5,000 copies will be available for people to pre-order up until the release date. In the case of something like Heir to Darkness, which sold out ahead of release and is going to a second print, that those additional 5,000 copies sold out and they had to order more because there was demand. So, but the problem is in comics, and I think this is a big problem in comics with comics readership, and probably I would guess something that is not super good in the Ranger part of comics either, just because some people only read the Ranger comics, so they're a little even more out of the loop. A lot of people don't pre-order comics, right? They hear about it last minute, and a lot of press happens around a final order cutoff, and then people are scrambling or they forget, and then the book sells out like Heir to Darkness did, and then it's a second print, and sometimes people aren't interested in a second print, and it's this whole thing, and this is why I do press for my books, including Edge of Darkness, for the whole window rather than right at the end, because I want people to have as much time as possible to go out and tell their local comic shop to pre-order this book. I've got 9 weeks to tell 500,000 people to order this book, and like 10% of them might. And it's
challenge accepted.
It's such a huge task. So what can you do after you see this? Next time you're in your shop, whether it's this coming Wednesday or this coming Saturday, next time you go in there, when you go to pick up your copy of Heir to Darkness, if you haven't, tell them that you want to check out Edge of Darkness. They'll be able to order it for you right there and then, and it'll come to your pull box or your comic shop when it comes out. And it's that simple. And this is like important for a lot of reasons. One, it's how Boom makes money, right? Boom makes money. We keep getting Power Rangers comics. The more money they make, the more Power Rangers comics we get. Like it's simple math.
He speaks truth, guys.
In a selfish way, if Edge of Darkness does really well and goes to 2 and 3 printings, that looks really good for me, and I get to write more Power Rangers comics. Obviously, if you don't like it, that's a problem for you and me. But in a vacuum, assuming the story is good and you guys want more stuff like what I did, that's the way it happens. And it's a tightrope walk, though, right? Because it's hard to get people to order something they don't know a lot about, and to invest in a creator that they don't know a lot about. And I know that that's a big ask. So just believe that I love Power Rangers and that I want to do a good job for you guys. And I want to do more of this. This is obviously a dream come true. So get out there and pre-order the books. Make sure that Boom gets those pre-orders and that we get lots and lots and lots of Ranger comics. I want more Power Rangers universe books so I can read them, even if I'm not the one writing them. And that's how we're going to get more of them, right? We know that there are 2 of them so far. There could be more, but if orders aren't good on these 2, maybe there won't be more. Like, it's really in our hands.
It is, yeah. If you want more of it, buy it. And the best thing really with comics, you just pre-order it, go in. It's super easy. If you don't know where a comic book shop is, or maybe you're looking for another one, maybe there's a new one close to you don't know about, please check out comicshoplocator.com. Pop in your address, and it will tell you where you can go. Look, I can't speak for all geeks out there, but geeks do tend to, I mean, we're kind of like, it's cool. Go into a comic shop. It could be your first time there, your millionth time. You're going to feel comfortable. They're going to help take care of you. I've gone in at, I go in with my 4-year-old kid. It's great. They have a million options out there, and get this book, this comic pre-ordered. There is going to be a trade though of it with the astronomy one. Both of those together, those are coming out. I don't have the exact date on that, but
it is November 23rd or 30th, I believe. I pre-ordered it already, and forgot. But also,
I talked about it on a news show. I forgot.
Yeah, I'm buying it for my personal writer's shelf because I can do that now. Fancy. But real talk. Going to the comic shop isn't for everyone. Not everybody can for physical reasons, and that's okay. Not everybody's comfortable for comfort reasons. Not everybody wants to because it's a hassle. There are, especially as a silver lining to the whole pandemic thing, a lot of shops these days are equipped for mail order at very, very, very little additional shipping charge. I know a lot of retailers. I'm connected at least with 400 on Facebook alone, and like I talk to these guys every day. If you're watching this and you don't want to go to your local comic shop for whatever reason, can't go to your local comic shop, it's 50 miles away, and you want a recommendation for where to order from, what retailers have been awesome to Power Rangers, like I'm more than happy to make recommendations. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. Everything is public, so you can message me on any of those. No privacy or anything like that. I'm happy to make these connections and make this happen for any Power Rangers fan.
Oh, thank you so much. That is a big problem. Great, where I grew up, the nearest comic shop was 50 miles away. So you can't just pop in on a Wednesday afternoon to pick up new comics. It's like it's an event, and you actually get to go. But, hopefully just the more accessible comics can become, the more people that can get to enjoy them, especially with stories just between independent stories and or expanding of all of these multiverses. There's a comic out there for you. I promise. Just got to find it.
Yeah. And if any, like, to plug myself in like a completely unabashed, unashamed way.
No
If you
shame.
guys, if anyone watching is interested in checking out my work ahead of Edge of Darkness, to see what kind of storyteller I am, to get a taste of what you're in for, um, I've got a few books out. Nobody has to get them. No, absolutely no one has to buy them. I'm not telling you what to do. Um, Honestly, if you want to read them and you don't want to buy them, reach out to me. I'll send them to you. I don't really care. Like, that's not what I'm getting at. It's not about the money. It's not about selling something to you. But if you do want to check out my writing ahead of Edge of Darkness, I've got a few books. I've got them right here, so I'll run through them real quick. This was my first book. Came out in 2018. It's called Grief. It's a short story collection, horror and sci-fi stories about the grieving process. It was nominated for a Ringo Award in 2019. It's probably my favorite thing I've ever written. It's a very personal book, but it definitely is like the base DNA for the kind of story I told in Edge of Darkness. I also put out a book the next year called Dead End Kids. This was a really big indie hit, kind of got me on the map. I think this is probably the book that got me the Edge of Darkness in the long run. It's a murder mystery set in the 90s, full of nostalgia. If you like Stranger Things, this is a book for you.
All right.
Last year, I put out another book called No Heroine. This is kind of my take on Buffy. I may never get to write a Buffy book, so I was like, I'll just do it myself. This is about a recovering drug addict who fights monsters, sort of as her way of recompense for the shitty things she's done to her friends and family. This is another book that I really, really adore. That came out last year. And then currently releasing is the sequel to Dead End Kids, Dead End Kids, A Suburban Job. This is a suburban heist book about three sort of lapsed friends who are brought back together when they come across a bag of stolen money and get on the radar of a drug dealer who's out to find the bag, and what happens to their friendship as a result. This is currently releasing. The third issue came out today. The last issue comes out next month, and then the trade for this comes out the same day as Edge of Darkness. So you've got lots of options if you want to check out some of my stuff. I always appreciate the support, but like I said, honestly, if anyone just wants to read it, shoot me a DM. I'll send it to you. I'll send you a PDF. I don't care about money. I just want to tell good stories. I want people to enjoy them, and I obviously want people to like the stories and check out the next one. So whatever works for you, like not a sales pitch, if I can stress that any other way.
You did not go to college for marketing, is what you're saying.
It's my literal day job.
I
I have one of those. Comics is not a full-time thing. It is a full-time thing. It's not a full-time paying thing.
I I understand that. I'm lucky. I'm a stay-at-home mom, but I just take care of a 4-year-old and everything. So it's
That's an
but
incredibly important job.
that's my full-time job. So, but it's your passion. You got to do what you're. I don't know if you watched Disney Soul, but it's
I
just kind
did.
of like it's not your reason for living, but it's kind of like one of the reasons you live well and just things that bring you joy. And
Yeah.
yeah, may not pay all the bills, but one day
Well,
I fingers, toes, legs, everything, man. This book, we're gonna get you
I
there.
hope so. I hope so. I would love to be invited back to do more. And yeah, I think of my day job as, it's not the thing I'm passionate about. It's the thing that lets me do the thing I'm passionate about. Making
Mm.
comics, indie comics, is incredibly expensive. Like making a 4-issue miniseries is costs in the ballpark and usually more than $10,000. And they usually don't make the money back. It's not something you do because you want to make money. It's something you do because you're passionate about comics and storytelling. I work a day job. It pays for all this. The comics pay for some of it back, and that just goes into the next project. I'm not. I don't know. I just don't care about money. Like, it's not important to me. Obviously, it's important to pay bills and to
Uh,
have food on the table, but like, it's not the thing that drives me. Telling a cool story is. Being able to be part of Power Rangers is. So yeah, that's the kind of energy I'm trying to bring to the table.
that's fantastic energy to have. To hear that this book was being written, and I see your name, and I'm like, wait a second, that's familiar on Twitter. I've seen this, so I look, I'm like, wait a second, he likes Rangers, and I see it, and I was like, Buffy aficionado, and I'm like, oh, okay, we're fine,
Oh yeah,
because
I
this
spent
is our first introduction to a
years.
lot of us, first introduction to you, and then I look and I
Yeah,
see your Twitter, and I'm like, oh yeah, we're fine.
yeah, I've been getting that a lot the last couple of weeks. Yeah, that has been my Twitter bio for going on 3 years probably. I am an avid lover of pumpkin spice, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Power Rangers, and all those words are true. Power Rangers gets to show up in my bio twice now as something I love and as something I write.
And forever, you are going to be associated with Power Rangers, and man, how cool is that? Guys, this book comes out on June 30th, with the big date you need to know is June 7th. That's the day you cut off your pre-orders. Please get this in, get it pre-ordered. Tell your local comic shop or email or however you got to do, but get this book. I know we can't talk a lot about it now because it's still so far off, but I hope you have really appreciated getting to know Mr. Frank Gogol and more about why this book is in really great hands. Frank, I will leave it up to you for however big intro. Please plug everything under the sun that you have.
Yeah, I just plugged it all. So I
Okay.
will I will focus on the one thing, and that's Edge of Darkness. Like you said, comes out on June 30th. The cutoff is June 7th. Honest to God, do yourselves a favor, everyone watching. If you're interested in the book, pre-order it next time you walk into your shop. Don't wait till the 7th. Just get it done. It's so easy to forget about these things. I forget. I am super plugged into comics, obviously, for reasons having to do with creating them. I know a lot of the people making the books, and I still forget. But just do it as soon as you can. And then if you know another Rangers fan who is, or somebody who doesn't read the comics, who loved Phantom Ranger and wants to know, tell as many people as you can about this. The greatest thing you can do for a comic after pre-ordering it is telling other people about it. Because like I said, that marketing window is 9 weeks, and most of the energy is spent in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So anything you can do to help spread the word about this is so important, especially if you want to see more of it. You want to see Power Rangers universe, Mighty Morphin Alien Rangers. You want to see Power Rangers universe, Tray of Triforia. Like, you want to see like these weird niche corner of the Mighty Morphin universe books like this. But making this book a success gets you the next one. Astronomy was a huge success. Went to 2 printings. I gotta imagine it's probably gonna get a third. The chatter about it has been awesome online. Like, that's the kind of energy we need to bring to Phantom Ranger. Obviously, if you don't like it, don't tell people about it. Don't tell me either. Don't come on my Twitter and be like,
just
tell me I ruined Phantom Ranger. That's
just
unprofessional. Don't do that.
just set it
Um,
down. Oh,
give it to somebody else who might like it. I don't know.
yeah, maybe.
That's what I do. So I don't enjoy. But yeah, pre-order the book. Tell your friends about it. If you like the book, tell people about it when it comes out. All those things are super important. Comics is a hard industry to grow, and anything we can do to make sure that it stays afloat keeps me in work, obviously, but also keeps Ryan in work and keeps Boom in the black, and keeps comics coming out, keeps Power Rangers comics a thing. So just, always have that in the back of your mind. It's not a guilt trip, obviously. Like I said, if you don't like it, don't worry about it. But if you love it like I do, and like Liz does, support it. And there are ways to support it that don't take dollars.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sitting with me. This has been an absolutely amazing interview, and I can't wait to talk with you in about 3 months about
I, I'm
hopefully
excited.
the amazing success that this book has been. Power Rangers Unlimited, Edge of Darkness, #1, The Phantom Ranger. Woo, answering Zordon's call on June 30th. I am Ranger Liz. This is Mr. Frank Gogol, and we'll see you at the next video. Bye!
Later.